this video today without my battery dying. So I'm going to try and skip through it as quickly as possible without kind of not doing it justice. I'm just trying to I'm going to try and just do it without having any notes. So this is going to be our trying to conceive story. So if you haven't read in the description already, we're challenged with a vasectomy reversal, and I also have polycystic ovary syndrome. I'd thought about filming this like a long time ago when I first got pregnant, and kind of put it off because it's quite personal and it's quite hard to talk about, and it doesn't affect just me, it's like Richard's story too. And I also didn't really want to film it because I felt like, because our story is like a good news story, I didn't really want to rub salt in the wound. But now it's National Infertility Week, it just felt like the right thing to do. Like I said, ours is a good news story, so it's kind of more to give hope and to kind of let people know that they're not alone. I'll go into it more like into detail as to why I want to film it like at the end, but I'll try and kind of cover everything off. Obviously, like when you have a vasectomy, you're infertile until it's reversed, if that operation works, and having polycystic ovary syndrome is also classed as an infertility because it's like a new challenge. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed, my battery is going to behave. I have got another one charging, so I'm going to try and film it and get it live. So when I first met Rich, it was in 2014, it was in August. We pretty much had to lay our cards out straight away. I knew that he'd had a vasectomy because he's got 2 children, and I was really clear from the start that I really wanted to have children. I've always been really, really maternal. I've always known that I want to have kids. I was quite broody at the time, like not like massively broody, but like just I was getting ready for that stage in my life, like starting to transition. So I was really clear that if he didn't want to have children, then we would not start seeing each other. He was really good and said that he would have more kids and stuff. He'd consider having the operation. And I think we both thought it would be a simpler process then than it was. So we started going out and dating and fell in love and everything like that. Moved in together really quickly. And yeah, we got engaged about 7 or 8 months later in April, which was really quick, and like for a lot of people that would be like a bit mind-blowing, but for us it was just completely right. We've worked together for a long time and we still work together. So, well, I'm on maternity leave now, but we did still work together, so the relationship's more intense anyway, and you feel like you know each other way better. So it was the right thing to do. We planned our wedding for August 2016, so the year after. So we got engaged in April 2015. So planned our wedding for August 2016 and said that we would have Richard's operation booked in for just before we went on honeymoon, basically. We give him recovery time, so I think we said like July 2016. So Rich would have been his vasectomy would have been 3 years old at the time, so it was kind of just in a good place to keep like our odds of it working well. So yeah, I hated wedding planning and it didn't go down very well. I hated the amount of money it was going to cost. I hated the logistics. We're both children of divorce, so there was a lot of awkward people to work out and stuff. So I said that we needed to sack the wedding off and we needed to elope. So I think I gave us like an 8-week window. This was in like June, and I was like, we're going to do it this year in August. So this is August 2015, we got married, and I planned it in 8 weeks and we did all that. That's a whole separate story. So moving the wedding also meant moving Rich's vasectomy reversal forward too. So that's what we did. So I think he had it at the start of August so that he would be healed in time for our honeymoon, which was August the 28th. So he might have had it the last week of July, I can't really remember. So he had that at a local private hospital called Circle Bath, and it cost us just over £2,000. I ended up selling my car to pay for it, because I actually was considering selling my car anyway because I don't use it because we work together, so we just use his car. And my car used to like just sit on the drive, well, not on the drive, it used to sit like in our parking area, like just pretty much, I used to use it probably once a week, if that. So I was already considering selling it, and then decided that I would sell it for that because, yeah, it just made sense. So that's what we did, so that's how we paid for it. The operation went really well. It was successful. He felt fine afterwards, like on the day. He had about a week to 10 days of recovery where obviously he felt sore and stuff. But generally, like, it went well. The hospital care was really nice. It didn't take that long. I think it took 2 to 3 hours, something like that. I can't really remember. It's all quite like fuzzy now. But the biggest thing was that we wouldn't get our results for, I think it was 8 to 12 weeks or something. I can't really remember. So we just had to wait after it was done. So obviously when I met Rich, so that's his part of the story basically. But when I met Rich, I came off the contraceptive pill pretty quickly because obviously he'd had a vasectomy. So there's no point in me taking that to prevent pregnancy because there just wasn't any point. So I came off that. But I didn't track my cycles or anything. I just came off it, and he kind of noticed that my like periods would always be a little bit late because I wasn't tracking them. Like, I didn't really know, so I just assumed it would be like 3 or 4 days late, give or take, every single month, which is kind of normal. And then when we decided that we were going to move the wedding forward and have the operation, which I think was like June, I downloaded the National Fertility app, which is a really, really good app if you are trying for a baby. I really recommend it. To start really tracking my cycles, and noticed that it wasn't give or take a few days. It was more like some cycles would be 40 days, some cycles would be 45 days, some like it would always be between 40 to 45 days, my cycles, and not 28, so almost double the length. And like sometimes it would be up to like 60 days that I would have between periods. So it wasn't really normal, and I didn't really understand why that was, because I'd been on the contraceptive pill like since I was 16, so couldn't remember what life was like before that either. I'm now 24. So yeah, so I went to a couple of doctor's appointments. I was reassured that it was normal, even though it's not. I was told that it was normal, and just tried to get on with it really. Yeah, and then August came round. Obviously Rich had his operation, so we started like actively trying for a baby, and I started like charting my basal temperature. I started taking ovulation sticks. What else? And just trying to track an ovulation day so that we would have a good time frame to conceive a baby. And I just noticed that I couldn't ever pinpoint ovulation. Like none of the tests came back positive. My temperature never had a consistent, like your temperature's meant to go like this and then spike, and that's your ovulation day. But my temperature would literally be constantly like that. Like, it was never consistent. And there was just never a window where I could pinpoint ovulation, which is really, really frustrating and also really scary, because obviously if you don't ovulate, you can't make a baby. So I think like we had August, September and October. August was really hard as well. Like, it put a lot of pressure on us because we had what I think now was a chemical pregnancy, but basically when we got back from honeymoon, I did a pregnancy test which came back positive, and then the next day it was I did another one and it was negative. So that added like more pressure, I would say, like, because it's really disheartening. That's a whole separate video that I'll talk about one day. But basically, like, to be given a pregnancy and then it taken away, like, it obviously adds more pressure. When you're trying for a baby, it's already really difficult as well. So I think I left it till about October before I got really frustrated, and I started to get really down about it, like, just that I couldn't even pinpoint a specific day to try for a baby. Like, it wasn't even that we were trying, like, ovulating, trying, and it wasn't working. I just couldn't even get the starting point, like, and I just felt broken. So Rich said that we should book a doctor's appointment together and he would come with me, and we went to go and see a doctor called Dr. Scott, who I now call Dr. Great Scott. But initially the appointment wasn't that good. Like, when we went there, he said the same thing. It's normal, you have to be trying for a year before we can refer you to see anybody. yeah, all this like usual spiel. And it's really hard like when doctors say that, because the one thing you deserve is control over your body and control over your fertility, and to not have that and to have access, you know, like there's access to treatment out there and you have to be trying for a year, it's really difficult. Like it's a really hard pill to swallow. So we walked back like from the doctors to the house, because it's only down the road. We were really disheartened, but Dr. Scott rang me about 10 minutes later saying that he actually had a thought and that it could be polycystic ovary syndrome. And if it was polycystic ovary syndrome, then they would refer me to see a gynecologist, which would mean getting some form of treatment. I really didn't think it would be that at first. I kind of dismissed it and didn't like want it to go any further, because I don't have any other symptoms related to polycystic ovary syndrome apart from irregular cycles. So he was like, let's just get you tested and we can rule it out, which was the right thing to do. He was so good. He was really, really quick. I was brought in for a blood test the following, like a couple of days later, and my blood tests came back in line with polycystic ovaries. So I was then sent for a for an ultrasound scan to scan my ovaries to see if they had cysts on them. And that was literally like a week to 10 days after my blood tests. So it was such a quick process to finding out. And I needed the ultrasound scan to happen to confirm before I got my diagnosis. So the ultrasound scan was a really, really bittersweet thing. Rich couldn't come with me because he had to be away with work, and he had wanted me to reschedule it. But because I was so keen now just to get answers, I just wanted to have the scan and just like move forward basically. So yeah, so we decided to do that. Like I just went by myself. Like my mum offered to come with me, but like it was just easy to go by myself. It was really hard because you are taken to the ultrasound suite at your hospital, which is where you would have a baby scan. So it was difficult for me to have my first ever ultrasound scan and it not be pregnancy related when you're trying for a baby. Like that's how you picture it. So that was kind of like a bit of a sad moment, and I did feel a little bit upset. The woman the sonographer confirmed in the scan that there were cysts on my ovaries, and again that was kind of a really emotional time. Like I kind of wanted to cry, but for different reasons. Like one part of me felt really relieved, and one part of me felt really scared of what was to come. Like it's an unknown thing. I didn't know what to expect. So yes, that was quite emotional. And then obviously I went back to the doctors. They confirmed it was polycystic ovary syndrome, and they referred me to a gynecologist. So we're talking like it's now November of last year that we're at probably for this whole process. So August, November. So we were referred to a gynecologist. That was a really quick process again. We were seen by a gynecologist probably 3 or 4 weeks later in December. Which was again amazingly fast, and I was feeling really positive to have the NHS behind me, and we were on a journey, so it was good. So I had my gynecologist appointment, which is the first one in December. I can't really remember the date. I think it was early December. And yeah, it was okay. Like it was fine. We just basically had a consultation. They said in the appointment that I would have to track 2 cycles, which could be like a 3-month basis, because obviously my cycles aren't 28 days. So they'd need to track 2 cycles to understand my hormone levels, whether I do ovulate at all, when I ovulate, all of that kind of stuff. And to track cycles, it would mean them doing blood overheated, and I've just gone to go and wipe my nose. Yeah, so they wanted to track 2 cycles, which means doing blood work on certain days to see how high the hormone levels were, to basically understand if I ovulated. And they also said they needed the results of Rich's vasectomy before they would do anything. So that's where we were at, and they rebooked us in. So we were in December at this time, and they rebooked us in for March. I think it was like March the 7th, I think. So yeah, so we kind of left that appointment feeling like a little bit deflated, and like it was really mixed emotions. Like Rich was really pissed off because his point was that by the time we had a follow-up appointment and then got whatever treatment we needed, if they were going to prescribe treatment and had another cycle, we'd be looking at a 2017 baby. And obviously when you're still in 2015, that seems like quite a long way. I kind of felt the same, like it was a long wait, another 12 weeks of no baby, and no prospect of a baby. And I also felt kind of like at least something is happening. Like the good thing about like our story is that with polycystic ovary syndrome, a lot of the time they'll fob you off by telling you to lose weight, which I think for a lot of people does really work. But obviously because I was in my BMI, like they couldn't tell me that, so they just had to kind of get on with it and help me. So that like kind of helped. I still did try and change my diet and stuff to see if that would help, which it didn't. So yeah, so I kind of decided to just crack on and get through Christmas, and we had a really lovely Christmas, but New Year was really hard. Obviously, I think when you have a new year, you reflect a little bit on the year previous, and like we got married and that was amazing. Like I don't sound like it right now, but it was obviously amazing. But I just felt like I hadn't achieved the things that I wanted to. Like I just really wanted to be pregnant. So it was quite hard, like New Year and stuff. And like I didn't think I'd get pregnant in 2000, there was no plan of, I just didn't see how I was getting pregnant, so it was really difficult. So yeah, so I kind of had a word with myself and I decided that what I would do is take this as like a calling, and we live in a home renovation, so I would finish the jobs that needed doing. So like we still didn't have a living room really, because it wasn't painted and there was no flooring, and our third bedroom wasn't ready because there was no flooring. So I booked in all these jobs to be sorted, and also I decided that we would be in a I wanted to get us in a financially stable position to have a baby. Not that we weren't, but like obviously everybody has like credit card payments or whatever, and I just didn't want to have that for my maternity leave. We just decided to make big overpayments. So I just decided to like make these practical steps and to get on with it basically. We also decided, so this is like, so we're now like nearly February, we also decided to get a puppy, like another one, just for something to care for really. So yeah, so I had a lot going on, but there were some really dark times. Like I used to spend like a lot of time at work, like, and at home, like researching, like infertility. Like when I had like a spare 10 minutes, I used to spend a lot of time researching like polycystic ovaries, good news stories, and just kind of became really consumed with it. So that was really hard. I also found like a place on the internet, not like a dark place, it was just the pharmacy, where you could buy the treatment that we needed, which is a tablet called Clomid, which would be the first thing they try for polycystic ovaries, which basically encourages you to ovulate. And there were so many times where I had it like in my shopping basket ready to order, and I thought I'm just gonna take it into my own hands and just do it, but I didn't. And also like there was a huge amount of pressure on mine and Rich's relationship. Obviously, like I said, Rich has kids, so we were still in the dark about his situation and my situation. So if we couldn't have kids because of my situation, it's slightly different, but if we couldn't have them because of his situation, I think he was feeling the pressure. Like obviously it's quite a big ask to ask somebody to raise your children when you can't have them with that person because of a decision you've made in the past. So I think he was feeling the pressure a lot, and he was nervous about our future, which he didn't have to be. Like there's nothing from me, but I get like, you know, to see his kids like have their first days at school and stuff, and no, I wouldn't have that, would have been really, really difficult. So yeah, that's kind of where we were at. I was keeping myself quite busy trying to finish things in the house, and we had kind of just consciously stopped trying for a baby until we got our results from the doctors. So like we just weren't doing the same thing. So before I was like charting my temperature, doing ovulation sticks, all of that stuff, and we just stopped because we didn't think that there was any point. So yeah, we're just kind of getting on with life really until this appointment came. And it was in the first week of March, like the last week of February, first week of March, like it was a crossover week, that I noticed something was off. Like there was something weird going on with my body, and yeah, that's kind of the best way to describe it. I hadn't had a period in, I think it was like nearly 50 days or something. Yeah, it was a long time. Like the 19th of January was my last period. So yeah, like probably about 50, nearly 60 days. So I kind of assumed that I was just due like the mother of all periods. But yeah, something didn't feel right. I felt like I had like a grey cloud over my head. I felt absolutely exhausted, and I just felt generally like, I don't know, odd. I can't put a word on it, I just didn't feel right. Yeah, and I noticed I'd put on a bit of weight and my boobs really hurt. So I just assumed like my period was due. So yeah. So that was kind of the first week, and there were a couple of other things that made me think something was wrong. So on the Friday night before Mother's Day in the UK, Richard's mum came to stay with us for the weekend because we were taking both our mums out for the weekend. And on the Friday she kind of brought a bottle of gin and stuff. We were gonna have some drinks, and I had one glass of gin and felt so sick, and her vape pen was making me feel really unwell as well. So I decided to go to bed at 8 o'clock that night because I was so tired, which is really unlike me. I'm usually like a bit of a night owl, like pre-pregnancy. So yeah, so I went to bed and woke up in the night so hot, like I was having the biggest sweats ever. So I even got up thinking it was warm and like got the dogs like new cold water, and they were fine, so it wasn't actually that hot, it was just me. And I can't like really remember like at what point I thought you could be pregnant, but I think me and Rich discussed that we should rule it out before the doctors, because if they give us treatment then we could affect the baby, which is so stupid in hindsight because you can't take your treatment until the first day of your period, and we knew that, we just didn't click. So I wouldn't have ever taken it basically. So we decided to rule out being pregnant. So I went to Tesco's, bought a packet of 2 clear blue tests and took one that night, so the day before Mother's Day in the UK, so the 5th of March. And yeah, it came back positive. So it came back saying positive with an egg timer because it was one of those weeks clear blue indicator things. So I remember coming downstairs and Rich being like, well, and I was like, I don't understand what's going on. Because we've been, like I said, we've been burnt by the pregnancy tests before. Like we don't know if we had a chemical pregnancy, whether it was a false pregnancy test, whether it was broken. So we were both really, really on the fence at this point, which is a really sad thing because like if you do a pregnancy test, you should be able to be really like celebrating straight away. We didn't believe it. By this time the egg timer had gone and it said 2 to 3 weeks, or maybe 3 plus. I can't remember. I think it said 2 to 3 weeks. I can't remember. So Rich was like, do the second test in an hour, like have a lot to drink and just do the second test. So the same thing, and the exact same thing happened. It came back pregnant. So we were kind of starting to get a bit more excited, but obviously we were still burnt. So we both drove to Boots out of hours and bought a first response pregnancy test, which also came back pregnant. And at this point, Rich kind of accepted it and told his mum. I decided to text my mum, and yeah, we were pregnant. I still struggled to believe it at this point, but Rich was way more there. I just had a really bad feeling that something was going to go wrong and didn't want to get too excited. I did a pregnancy test the next day, it still came back positive. And then I went to the doctors on the Monday and had my bloods drawn to confirm, and I was pregnant. And it was just crazy, like it's mad, like I still can't believe it, and I'm now 39 weeks pregnant tomorrow. It's insane, and I feel really sad as well because the more I talk about our trying to conceive story, and I might cry, the more I realise that I've taken this whole pregnancy so for granted. But anyway, the reason I want to talk about our story is because even though it's a really good news story and we got pregnant after 6 months, So for some people it might rub salt in the wound, because obviously it's not always that simple. It didn't feel simple for us at the time. It felt really, really, really hard. Having no control over your body and your body not working how it should is really, really frustrating and so disheartening, and I completely get that. I'm nervous to have a second child. Like, I don't know if it will be that simple again. Rich's fertility might drop, because after a vasectomy reversal it doesn't always stay perfect. Oh yeah, by the way, so I found out I was pregnant before our follow-up appointment at the doctors, and also before Rich got his results back. So Rich went for his test and we were told he'd get his results in 10 days because his doctor was on holiday. And so yeah, I got to cancel my gynecologist appointment, which I've waited for so long because I was pregnant. And Rich's doctor rang to say that he had to the all clear and that his operation went well, and Rich got to tell the doctor that I was pregnant. So that was really exciting. So yeah, I forgot that bit of the story. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about the story anyway because yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know, it's difficult. I always vouched when I was not pregnant that I would, if I got pregnant, I would always discuss that it didn't come easy to us. When I was trying to get pregnant and that's all you can think about, and you see other girls announcing their pregnancy and you just assume it comes easy to everyone else, and that's not necessarily true. And I didn't ever want someone that was struggling to conceive to think that they were alone. No one talks about the struggle to conceive like openly, and I think it's really important that you know that it's not perfect for everybody. Everybody has their issues. Like, some people get pregnant the first month of trying and that's amazing, but they've got their own problems. You know, I have quite a nice life, so obviously there has to be some give and take, and I don't want people to think that, like, you know, it's really easy to look on the outside and think like everybody has it perfect when they don't. There are so many girls out there, girls and men, that struggle to conceive with fertility, and I think it needs to be talked about so that, I got the hiccups so badly, so that it's not a taboo subject, and that so people don't feel isolated. Like, it's so lonely. Like, we always vouched when we were trying to conceive that we wouldn't tell people we were trying to conceive, apart from like my mum and stuff, because we didn't want to add that pressure to ourselves, which was the right thing to do, but it also meant that I didn't have people to talk to about how I was feeling. So I kind of feel like I should document this, like, and it's important, it's a huge part of our story. But I also want people to know that if you've just been like diagnosed with something like endometritis or polycystic ovaries or something else that affects fertility, it doesn't always mean that that's the end. Like, there are still many, I'm gonna sneeze as well. Okay. There are still so many people that still fall pregnant naturally, and it comes, you know, it happens, and it's amazing when it does. And yeah, those are the stories that when I was trying to conceive got me through the darker times, instead of reading about people that have been trying for 5 years and still hadn't got there. I don't know how people do that. Like, I genuinely couldn't cope with waiting that long. So yeah, I kind of hope my point comes across right. And like I said, the reason that I want to talk about it is because it's important. Like, you should not feel alone, and it shouldn't be taboo, and it just shouldn't. So many people all over the world are having the same issues, and they make babies, and if you just keep hopeful, you will make a baby. Also, the thing that really frustrates me is that the whole time we were trying to conceive, people kept on telling me to calm down, stop checking your temperature, stop forcing it will happen naturally. And fine, they were right. The second we did calm down and the second we stopped trying, we conceived. So yeah, fine, they were right. But don't ever listen to that advice. I would never give that advice at all. Like, if you think something's wrong with your body, then don't leave a stone unturned. Like, just chase it down all the time. If something doesn't feel right, don't accept that it's considered normal if you know it's not. Like, a period is meant to be 28 days. If it goes over that by well, if you're having a 60-day cycle, it's not normal. Like, there's probably some reason behind it. You have the right to understand your body and to have some control over your fertility and your welfare, and you should absolutely go and do that. Don't feel alone. Find support. If you can join forums, there's forums on Net Mums for people that are trying to conceive. There's so many forums. Find a group of people you can talk to, and just don't ever lose hope. Like, the world is amazing right now. If we couldn't make a baby naturally, there would have been tablets for us, there's treatment for us, there's IVF, there's so many amazing things now that will help you make a baby. Like, science has never been more on our side. Yeah, so I really hope what I'm trying to get across has come across in this video, and that people don't feel like it's just me saying, we did it in 6 months, because it wasn't like that at all in those 6 months. It was so hard, it was scary, it was horrible, and I'm so lucky now to be able to report that I am pregnant and I've had a healthy pregnancy, and I really need to get, like, kick myself up the arse and to take that, like, stop taking it for granted. And it makes me really sad that I've done that. Like, I'm gonna start crying again. It makes me feel so guilty that I've moaned during my pregnancy, because this is all I've ever wanted. So yeah, that's kind of it really. If you have any questions, then please feel free to message me. And if you ever want to talk about anything or discuss something, then I'm absolutely open. Like, I 100% want people to feel comfortable to discuss it, because then maybe other girls or men wouldn't feel so lonely when they're going through it. And basically, just don't lose hope. If I can do it, then, you know, it's, I don't know, I don't really know what I'm trying to say. I got there and I never thought I'd be able to conceive a baby. Like, I just didn't think it was gonna happen for us. I thought that everything was against us. So yeah, that is the point of the story. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please give a thumbs up, and please subscribe to my channel for pregnancy updates and things like that, and some more open and honest content. I'm going to try and film more, even though it's really difficult. Like, I feel really nervous about filming this, but yeah. So yeah, I'll just see you in the next video, because I'm going to have to cut this one up because I'm very emotional now. Right, bye.